Festac town in Lagos is. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I am Ayo Makinde.
Okay, so there you go. That's what is playing out today in the country at the Supreme Court. So, judgment. So, this is what is going to be on the cost list for Plateau, Cross River, Abia, Zamfara. You also get to see Lagos, Kano, Bauchi are on the cost list to be determined today. So, the weather may be lovely, as you see, but the political weather, it is about to rain big time on some of these states. They don't know where the pendulum will swing. They only hope it will be in their favor. And who knows?
Well, a number of states during the week already knew where the pendulum... Well, sometimes they didn't even have to wait for the pendulum. It would seem that from what we heard, the opponents read the mood of the court. So we're going to find out whether or not the court has a body language or whether you can sense the mood of the court simply by being there. And, you know, the opponents withdrew their cases as a result of that.
That's right.
But the Supreme Court has delivered judgment in some cases. Like yesterday, they delivered judgment in the case of the Akwa Ibom governorship candidate, and he was affirmed, you know, finally as governor of Akwa Ibom State. I know that, is it Oyo State as well, also got judgment yesterday? Not very clear on that. But there are a number of states, I mean, as Chimling has listed there, whose governors will be waiting today. As a matter of fact, a number of them have already arrived at the Supreme Court, waiting for the courts to open today at 9 a.m. And as you can see, it's 9:02. Lawyers have already made their way down there. So have some of the defendants who are, you know, going to be knowing their fate today. We've seen so far the governor of Bauchi State. Chimling, who else have we seen there?
Plateau is also there. He's arrived bright and early at the court here today. So you also have several other governors who have shown their faces right there. Kano is also there. He's arrived right there this morning, waiting to see what will happen. So you just wonder, in all of these states, there are several governors that are there. But now the thing is, several ways, or some of the things to expect today is that the courts could either say, well, yes, affirm the election of the governor. Okay, so you can see some of the Kano officials there. Of course, if you see that cap, the Kwankwasia cap, you know what to expect. So that's when
unmistakable cap.
The Kano may have emptied out now to Abuja, the political leadership of both APC and PDP. They're waiting, hoping the pendulum will swing their way. So the governor there is hoping it will go his way, while the APC candidates also hoping to be sworn in ASAP. As a matter of fact, I tell you. So,
just in case you're wondering what that bus is, where everyone is going through that bus, that's where the scanning machine into the Supreme Court of Nigeria is. So the bus serves as a scanner of some sort. So you for you to enter the... Well, Chimling, you have experienced that. For you to get into the court, you must go through that bus. I'm sure you're scanned to make sure that everybody who's there, no one is carrying a weapon or no one is planning to do anything untoward. That is maintained by the DSS. So just in case everyone's wondering, how come this little bus is taking everybody that is entering it? But that's what you find. And I think that was my mistake yesterday. It was not Oyo, it was Ogun, whose case was also decided yesterday. But the shots you're seeing right there, you can see right there the governor of Bauchi State, Mr. Bala Mohammed, who is right there in court, bright and early, arriving with some of his aides and political associates. Lawyers have also arrived in their numbers, and the court is gradually filling up from what we gather.
Yes, indeed. And so, as a matter of fact, it's, I mean, Plateau weather is usually lovely most times. So there are very lovely fruits, seeds coming through from there, but they're still lovely people. But today, they will decide, the court will decide what happens at the end of the day. So in these cases that will come up today, they could either, as we said, affirm their election or other a rerun, or vacate your seat, get a removal van and go somewhere else. So those are the things that we will find out today. So we're keeping it locked here for you. And speaking about Kano, remember we looked at that subject matter some time ago where some didn't just understand how this came this way. They were just a bit confused. And so there's been several protests for and against, different groups protesting. But how does the weather look like now? What are people talking about in Kano? So our man Sadiq is there now to give us at least a bird's eye view of how it is at the moment and probably what to expect. Hello, Sadiq. What's happening in Kano at the moment? What are they talking about?
People, whenever there is a case like this, people because the volatility of the state, a lot of people began to fear and what have you. What I'll tell you now is that some private schools have got their schools, and from what we've seen now today, that there are a lot of people present and at the government house. In fact, the road leading to the government house is blocked, and although we've seen some few students going to public school, but I can tell you that a lot of people prefer to stay at home because of the fear of what might happen before, during, and after this Supreme Court judgment. And I was talking right here, a lot of people of the and other countries, they're just moving around. Even just now, one issue just passed by us now. So this is the situation in Kano. We are just hoping that whatever the case might be, the state remains.
Indeed, I think that that's the prayer of many Nigerians today, that whatever the case is, that the situation remains peaceful in Kano. We understand the CP, the Commissioner of Police in Kano, held a press conference yesterday telling everyone that, they intend to maintain the peace. But before now, we had heard very interesting reports that there had been prayer and fasting for the situation today, and that some people had bought uniforms for their political party ahead of celebration. Is it something that you have also heard or seen as well?
Yeah, of course. What I know is that there is a political party that has already distributed what we call Ashobi to their members, and we've seen these shows with posters and with some inscriptions ready for celebration. And we know that one of the political parties also yesterday declared yesterday as a fasting day. So a lot of people, thousands of people fasted hoping that their fasting will be answered and as a prayer to this judgment. Back to you.
Well, it's very, thank you very much, Sadiq. We'll come back to you much later to keep tabs there. But we'll also get perspectives from lawyers here today. Can governors be sworn in today? Of course, they'll have to get certificates of return. So how will all of that play out? So those are some of the issues that we'll hope to dissect here today. I hear from the experts to give us their perspective as those judgments come in. So, amazing human nature. Fasting and praying for this. Always wanting to get from God. What do we ever even give in the first place? Oh, boy. They fast and pray for these kind of things. And then when they get into those offices, do they fast and pray that they deliver good governance to the people? Of course, you know the answer already.
Big question. But, it is very instructive that people are not really out on the roads in Kano State. And I think that that's something that, we all need to work on. Our elections need not be do or die. Yeah. Supreme Court judgments need not be something that brings fears to the hearts of citizenry as a result of the reaction of certain people. So it's something that we really need to work on. The meeting held by the Commissioner of Police in Kano State yesterday was quite instructive. And I think that's something that we all need to, yes, it's better to be safe than sorry. And when you know that it's a situation where things could become volatile and people could be very emotional, because whether or not we like it, politics can be emotional. But it is something that we really need to work on, to know that, look, whatever happens today, there's another 4 years, okay? It cannot be, no one can last longer than 4 years in any position. That's what the Constitution says. And people will get a chance again to be able to contest. So I hope that politicians keep that at the back of their mind whenever it is, whatever the outcome of today's judgment is.
Because of that, schools have been shut. They're not going to schools. Everybody's cautious, just not sure where the pendulum will swing, and so they're rather safe than sorry. And unfortunately, too, 4 years for some politicians is a long time. That's why you see them move from one place to the other. So they think differently, this species of people. But not to worry, we ourselves will be back here to bring you some dailies in a moment. All right, welcome back. Let's run you through some of the dailies here, and we'll start with New Telegraph 2023 global poll. 8 governors, no fate today, as Supreme Court delivers final verdicts with a S there on appeals challenging Kano, Bauchi, Nasarawa, Cross River, Plateau, Delta, Lagos, Abia elections. Reserves judgment in suit seeking to nullify Governor Abiodun's election, affirms Eno as Akwa Ibom governor. All of those happened yesterday. Police warn against violence in Kano. Ogun governor's aides, wait for that, go spiritual. But they know they can, because humans are spiritual beings naturally anyway. So, well, and then at the bottom strip, FG to probe Ajaokuta Steel Company's 33 billion naira electricity debt. That's in Telegraph.
Daily Trust has as his lead story the situation at the Supreme Court. Security beefed up as Kano, Plateau, 6 other governors, no fate today. CPs, others call for calm. Winners, appellates, upbeat. Oh yes, everyone is optimistic. If there's anybody, any group of people we can borrow optimism from, it has to be politicians. And then we also have a breakdown for you, the issues at stake. So just in case you're wondering what is at stake for each of the states, they have a breakdown for you on page 4. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust.
This morning, 2023 polls, all eyes on Supreme Court as Yusuf Lawal Muftwang, no fate today. And that's the lead of the story. You'll find the details on pages 5 and 6, and the writers, Wufuru Abiodun Bala to Eno win. Eno triumphs. APC urges Kano Zamfara Plateau supporters to be law-abiding. You know, a lot has been said about this already, guys. So, well, maybe we'll come back to it later, but that's the blueprint, lead of the blueprint today.
Look at Vanguard, Edugate, that's what they call it now. APC governors, Peter Obi back Tinubu on probe. Governors ask Nigerians to be patient, says Tinubu will take final decision after investigations, after being the Operation Award. As APC professionals support President's move to send strong signals to government officials, don't spare anybody, Peter Obi tells Tinubu. So, new bank CEOs, they also have some info right there, but that's Vanguard today.
Well, The Guardian has this, renewed hope agenda. That's what's on the front page of The Guardian now. Renewed hope agenda. After honeymoon, tales of woe, frustration trail Tinubu's policies. It's a big story for you on pages 4 and 5 of the paper. They're showing you right there, burden of financing political class lifestyle. So they put everything on a scale. And right there you see it, renovation of residences, expensive travels, purchase of SUVs for politicians, profligate expenditure, corruption. I mean, you might want to know what else is on that particular scale. Let's leave it there for the Guardian newspapers.
Switch to Daily Independent newspaper, and it's interesting that we're hearing this, what you have on the front page of Daily Independent this morning. It's about an $800 million blocked funds. And who is speaking? Foreign airlines are saying, we may stop operating into Nigeria. Say $61 million payment is a drop in the ocean. Well, $800 million blocked fund and $61 million already paid. Well, the details of that you'll find on the inside pages this morning.
Leadership Friday also has the same theme as some of the papers in terms of what to expect today. So, Supreme Court judgment as the theme on easy calm in Kano, Plateau, Zamfara. Police beef up security. PDP declares prayer, fasting. APC urges calm. Apex Court reserves judgments in Ogun appeal. So that is the lead in Leadership Friday.
And you also see on the front page of this Nigeria, 585 million naira. Well, it's just in case you're wondering, it's $500 million. Official better Edu's accomplices. That's somebody certainly speaking right there. Official better Edu's accomplices. APC chieftain charges federal government. Don't conclude yet on allegations against embattled minister. APC governors urge Nigerians. That's the lead story on the front page of this Nigeria.
The Nigerian Observer has a story that I'm asking, should we be concerned? Check it out. More Nigerians embrace trado medicines amid rising cost of orthodox drugs. Experts warn of adverse effects. I saw someone having a conversation with someone one day. The fellow said it's a particular medication that they used to get for, let's say, 4,000 or 5,000. Now it's something in the region of 30,000 naira. So, should we be concerned? Well, the details are on the front page. Continue on the inside pages. That's the lead of the Nigerian Observer this morning.
News Direct says Ajaokuta Steel Mill, FG to probe 33 billion naira electricity debt, targets fresh 35 billion naira investment. So that's the lead right there. Okay, so I guess that is it with some of the dailies. But so one that should highlight, that really is out there, this investigation, the front page of Vanguard here, talking about EduGate, APC governors, Peter Obi, back Tinubu on probe, and all of that is going on. Yes, it's an allegation that's been put out there, and then the president intends to ensure that things are done right, to send strong signals to government officials. So here's the thing. Yes, this is at the federal level, and this is happening, but I guess in the days to come, we'll wait to see what elements, what components, and how this investigation pans out, hoping it doesn't take longer than necessary. Depends on what you define as necessary anyways. But equally important is, now that this is out there, they need to know, the government now, that if you are starting this way, you need to maintain the tempo. You need to ensure you don't drop the tempo, don't drop the ball. By that I mean the same principle needs to apply across the board in terms of government activities, government functions at the federal level, and the state governors. You also need to step up. You need to stand up and be counted. Indeed. You can't be on the sidelines and thumping them up and say, yes, this, that. You need to do the same thing, if not more, because you've got commissioners, you've got your budgets. Some of your budgets are not even known or seen by the people. People cannot, your state assemblies can't even debate your budget. Some of you don't have MTEF, you don't submit nothing. So if we're to get it right as a country, it shouldn't be at the federal level. The states play a huge role, a huge part. So all of us, both media, civil society, everyone who's anyone, you need to also beam the searchlight on activities of state governors. So, because investors look at all of these things. They look at your corporate governance. They see, are you doing things right? If there's so much corruption, can I bring my money in? Even if we travel all we want, we need to ensure we set the record straight, because they will look at all of those things to determine whether or not they can do business with the country, size or not. These are the things that we should also highlight.
Well, if you take a look at The Guardian this morning, even though the lead story is big enough, but very closely related to the big story on the front page of The Guardian, where they're talking about the renewed hope agenda of the government, and talking about how after the honeymoon, tales of woe, frustration trails Tinubu's policies. And usually you just get an example every now and again, just to press home the frustration that many people are feeling. This case of a female banker who committed suicide in Ikorodu, blaming economic hardship. And this is a banker, a young lady who obviously had a job because she committed the suicide in her place of work.
Wow.
And that's why, colleagues do also have to be very sensitive. If you see that a colleague is particularly withdrawn, it's very important that we press. Yes, we might say everybody is minding their business and everybody has one or two things that they are also carrying on their shoulders, but it's very important to just check on the next person who knows, maybe just speaking to you might just do it for them, might just be something that eases it. Because how do you wake up, dress up, come to work, and then commit suicide in the bathroom of the organization? You know, it's a really heart-rending story. And she left her suicide note on her desk before she went to the bathroom.
I think the company will need to do a lot introspection.
Yeah, the company.
Could we have done anything differently?
Yeah.
In terms of our relation, did we miss anything? Were there signs? So those kind of things to improve the health, mental health of people in workplaces.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things we expect them to do because, look, it shouldn't just be that company.
It should be across board, yeah. Yes. No, that's what I'm saying, that, you know, because a company is not going to, management is not going to come down from heaven and, beg your pardon, from where they are and come down and see what their staff are doing. It is other colleagues who will raise the alarm if they find that a colleague is withdrawn or if something is up with a colleague. You know, it behoves on them to be able to say, look, is everything okay here? It's a really, really, you know, heartbreaking story. When I read that story yesterday, I had to type something. I couldn't take it because I wondered what level did she get to before she eventually decided to take her life? And it was all around, you know, hardship. She's looking at the future, it's not looking bright. She wrote that in her suicide note. So I'm hoping that we all can do better. And I'm hoping that very soon, because what the Tinubu administration say they're doing is that they want to renew hope. People commit suicide when they have reached a state of utmost despair. So,
hopelessness.
Hopelessness, yeah. So we all need a bit of hope, and we all need to help spread that hope. It doesn't have to be APC's hope, but hope is something that exists even before the APC decided to appropriate that word. We all need to be able to help spread hope about our country and the future that she holds. Ayo.
Well, Marco, before I go to the next paper, I'm going to speak about that a little. Well, as you said, she works in a bank. And who knows whether or not she's a full staff or one of those contract staff. The complaints that I know that you also are aware of about some of those contract staff in banks is absolutely inhuman in a number of ways. So maybe that is one of the reasons. And as you said, it's not looking bright. If you're earning, say, 5,000 naira and your monthly need is 20,000 naira, how is she going to cope? And then, you know, so many other things that needs to be factored into that one. And that's in banking. Who knows where else? Just recently, I had a conversation with a fellow who drives a Lagos Ride vehicle. And guess what? The kind of conditions under which they drive, this fellow was saying, you know, it's extremely difficult, such that they make X amount and literally have to pay like 80% of that money to the organization, to the Lagos Ride, whoever is handling the Lagos Ride business, before, you know, they can, take anything out for themselves. So if, for instance, you make 40,000 naira and at the end of the day, you can only take home 5,000 naira for whatever reason. Those are some of the things, and those are the only ones we know. How about several others? So it behoves on each individual, take care of your health, please. Take care of your health. Your heart health is extremely important, particularly the things that happen in states. I'm talking about states, Chamberlain. This Nigerian newspaper, I'm interested in the story at the bottom of the page. Mineral deposits fueling terrorism, banditry in Nigeria. Guess that's where that is coming from? Defense headquarters. The defense headquarters is making the statement that mineral deposits in Nigeria they're fueling terrorism and banditry. Okay, that story has a rider. They plan to displace host communities to have free access to the minerals. I saw a video recently of some social media influencer, I don't know whether that's what you call the fellow, going to, I think it was Plateau State, saying that the reason for all of the things that was happening right there is because of the mineral deposits under the ground. So it calls to question again what you said, Chamberlain, about collaboration between the federal government and the states. These things should not be happening. If the governor of the state is the chief security officer of the state, and the mineral deposits are in his state, for God's sake, how is it difficult for those two levels of government to collaborate to ensure the safety and the security of people, the welfare and the security of the people in their domains. If the military, the armed forces in Nigeria is making this statement, I think it begs to question the attention of the commander-in-chief of the armed forces to look into this matter and see how we can end this totally. Can this be one of those things in the renewed hope agenda? Chamberlain.
Well. Of course, I'm not part of that agenda. So, and I know that hope deferred makes the heart sick. So I hope that they will listen to you and do what they have to do. But look at this one, guys. From The Observer. More Nigerians embrace trado medicines amid rising cost of orthodox drugs. Now, shrug our shoulders, react whichever way, but this is a thing, it's an issue here. And I know we may remember when we have NAFDAC DG here, and she talks about how she, and of course, try to lead the agency to ensure that they do a lot in that regard about trado medicine. And we need to pay attention to this because this is a silent killer. Because no dosage, no expiry date for something. People consume things because they think it's natural, and so it can't kill. But people get their liver damaged, and several things happen because of poor regulation. They don't know any better. Everybody is an expert in this field, but we need to sit back and ensure that they move real quick, because you know what they say, a stitch in time, this time, saves lives.
It saves lives, though, because, Shimile, you will be shocked. The difference between, what you used to obtain in terms of prices for, let me take a very popular antibiotic, Augmentin. You want to buy Augmentin 625 milligrams. I still remember very clearly when it was 11,000 naira, 11,005, and I know how much it is now. It is mind-boggling. It's gone up over 300, 400%.
Wow.
Now imagine people who need to take drugs on a daily basis. Maybe those who are diabetic, those who are hypertensive, those who have one hormonal issue or the other that needs to be stabilized. All of these issues on a daily basis. And then you go back and then the cost of your medicine has gone up, or it has gone up in such a way that it's totally out of your reach. I still remember a conversation I had with my husband. He had gone to buy a medication and it was way out of the budget that he had in mind. So he called and said, hey, look, this is how much this medicine is. And I said, what options do we have? We need to buy it. So that's basically where a lot of Nigerians have found themselves. They need to get better. If they cannot afford what is currently in the shops, they're going to go and find other things that will make them feel better.
In fact, in some cases, if not most cases, chances are that if it's a little cheaper, it's fake.
It's exactly.
And they buy it.
Which is even worse. So this dollar that has depreciated, this naira that has depreciated a great deal against our dollar, you can say, well, I will not eat imported food. But a lot of our medicines are imported. A lot of things that babies, children use are imported. So if we're not going to, if the adults say, everybody go and look at what is Nigerian and what is local that you can use. Yes, I know that our pharmaceutical companies are trying. But there's so much more that needs to go on in the world of medicine for us to be able to be at par with a number of other countries. And I'm hoping that it will be an area where the Ministry of Health will pay a lot of attention, because people need to feel better. I mean, look at us talking about depression. Yeah. If a medication is prescribed and it's totally out of the reach of the person, what happens? It's a very big issue, Chamberlain.
Yeah.
And that's certainly worth highlighting.
So there you go. That wraps it up today with the dailies, but we will be back in just a moment. Stay on with us.
were the first to tell me that my case was withdrawn at the Supreme Court and asking why. I didn't know. I spoke with my lawyers in the morning. They were going to the court, and I know the case, the court starts sitting by 9. And so I wish them good luck, waiting to hear what happened. I was waiting to hear that at least the case has been adopted, it's been reserved for judgment. Now then, I saw you said that it's been drawn. Before I even comprehend what you were saying, the lawyer called me that they are out of court. I said, what's happening? The newsmen are telling me that my case is withdrawn. He said, yeah, it is the court that, forced them to withdraw, but they are on the way to my house. So they came to my house and they sat down where you are, and what happened? And they gave me the entire briefing. They withdrew the case. And then I told them that you have no right to withdraw my case. You should have told the court, my lordships, this is not our matter. We are representing a client. We cannot, on our own, order for the withdrawal of this case. Kindly determine it one way or the other, or allow us to consult with our clients. That's the thing that should happen. It did not happen. And I heard that my case has been withdrawn, and that the impetus of the withdrawal comes from the Supreme Court.
All right, we'll be talking about looking forward to some of the decisions that will play out today. But we also do remember that yesterday, some of those cases had been determined. That of Ogun was reserved. Akwa Ibom was affirmed. The governor was affirmed as governor. So some of the other states that will play now today, let's have a list, look at those lists again today. So we're expecting decisions to be made on Abia, Kano, Lagos, Zamfara, Bauchi, Nasarawa, and probably Ebonyi, Cross River, Plateau. So all of these states will get a decision today from the Supreme Court as to whether or not they've got to call for the removal vans or they will go on. So the fate of those state governors hang in the balance today. But we've got a senior advocate of Nigeria here with us to talk us through, for instance, does what happens in the court of public opinion affect you? Is the court really the last hope of the common man? What should we expect? What should we not expect? So, what about the cases that even were determined yesterday and previously? Any lessons from those? Do you have an idea of what to expect today? So, He's here with us this morning, Mr. Chukwuma Machukume. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much.
Happy New Year to you. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
It's very easy to forget that it's January, you know. It's still very early in the year, you know, in the month of January.
Time flies. It's already the 12th day of January. But some of these governors, their heart is beating really fast now because they don't know. I mean, some of the dailies are talking about fasting and prayers. But wait a minute, Mr. Machukume, when they consult lawyers, and then, I mean, how do lawyers feel in this case? Do they panic as well as their clients? Or do they just say, well, we'll just argue our case based on the points of law, and that's it, maintain our demeanor?
I'm not too sure it will be that way. A counsel must always be with the heartbeat of his client. But in any case, while he will be attached to the course of action of his client, professionally, he must be also detached, so that he doesn't take steps that will be professionally, that will be unprofessional. So he's for the society, he's for the court, he's also for his client. While he argues the case of his client tenaciously, he makes sure he doesn't step the bounds. So that's the work of the lawyer.
We're going to play you the piece of a certain Dr. Umar Ardo. I know we played it a while ago, but I'm not sure you heard it. So we'll go back to that. We'll go to that again because when you were talking about a client must be with the heartbeat of, the lawyer, counsel must be in the heartbeat of his client, while also ensuring that he doesn't make any professional mistake. So we have
Of his conduct.
We have
in order to favor his client.
Exactly. Now we have this candidate on the record. He was the SDP governorship candidate. He had a complaint about his lawyer concerning his own case. Here's what he said. We'll actually listen to it.
You are the first to tell me that my case was withdrawn at the Supreme Court and asking why. I didn't know. I spoke with my lawyers in the morning. They were going to the court, and I know the case, the court starts sitting by 9, and so I wish them good luck. Waiting to hear what happened. I was waiting to hear that at least the case has been adopted. It's been reserved for judgment. Then I saw you said that it's been drawn. Before I even comprehend what you were saying, the lawyer called me that they are out of court. I said, what's happening? The newsmen are telling me that my case is withdrawn. He said, yeah, it is the court that, forced them to withdraw, but they are on the way to my house. So they came to my house and they sat down where you are, and what happened? And they gave me the entire briefing. They withdrew the case. And then I told them that you have no right to withdraw my case. You should have told the court, my lordships, this is not our matter. We are representing a client. We cannot on our own order for the withdrawal of this case. Kindly determine it one way or the other, or allow us to consult with our client. That's the thing that should happen. It did not happen. And I heard that my case has been withdrawn and that the impetus of the withdrawal comes from the Supreme Court.
So we heard this case was withdrawn. So I called him and I thought, Doctor, what's going on? Your stance before was bullish. How did you withdraw your case from the court? He said, you're the first person to tell me what's going on here. So what do you think of that?
What I think of it is exactly the kind of faith I had when, as a lead counsel for APM, I also presented an appeal before the Supreme Court, and eventually, I think I had a statement from one of the justices who said, when I was trying to insist that let the case go on, I did appeal to go on. I think I had one of the justices say, also, no, It's not just what you want done that will be done, what the court wants. So, at the end of the day, the court is in charge of his proceeding. And if the court looks at the matter and on its own judgment feels that that will be amounting in its own language a waste of time, that's what issue you want to say have been taken care of. The court may, by body language, make the counsel to withdraw. Yes, I appreciate what he was saying. He is the client. He owns the case. But then, the fact that you own the case is not the same thing as that the court must be only guided by your own temperament and expectations. So these are the perspectives. These are the problems. But then, the court is a master of his proceeding. So if the counsel is saying that from the body language of the court that he had to withdraw, I mean, there's not much again he would do.
But he then says that it's not the first time. So could it be a coincidence? For his own case particularly?
I think when I was trying to respond, I made mention of my fate, which is just recent, of APM. When I brought the issue of APM, from the body language of the court, I felt that if I didn't withdraw that appeal, I might be, the appeal might be had, dismissed immediately, and maybe a cost of millions awarded against me personally.
So would it have been?
Yeah. And again, I don't need to be seen to be combative with the court. That's not. That's
so
not
what if
that's not expected
for his own case? Yes. What if the counsel had said
his own case is the same as what happened to Professor Zakome, where the court said you have a fine of 40 million. A fine of 40 million for bringing. Zakome is not a client. The client sent him. He canvassed the case. But the court said, no, we won't go this way. And we're going to fine you personally 40 million.
Wow.
So, yes, these are some of the issues. Maybe as Nigeria is growing up, some of these brush areas maybe soften the way.
So what he was saying that the client, the lawyer should have come to him. So would it have been out of place for the lawyer to tell the courts, okay, this is not my case. Can I just consult with my client and then come back to the court?
Again, I will bring it back to me now. I remember during the PM issue, they said, withdraw. I mean, are we not withdrawing? I said, no, I don't have that brief for my client. They said, I heard one of the justices say, you are the one we are seeing here. You are the one doing the proceeding. You are the one to guide your client. So, all this played out. So, I guess at the end of the day, the court is in charge of this proceeding.
What was not said is you are the one that will bear the brunt.
We'll go find 50 million.
Because, so you saw it. And if I wasn't careful that day,
yeah,
I may have attracted a fine of about 40 million. Where am I going to pay? And that will be personal to me. What will I do?
So to be forewarned, while I was sitting over there talking with Chamberlain, I said, well, one of the issues we'll be looking at today is whether or not the court has a body language. Because I know that when that case was withdrawn, and it's not something to really laugh over, but I just can't help myself. They said, the lawyers looked at the body language of the court. And I said, oh dear, are we back here? Anyways, So
Yes.
I was wondering, at what point do
There's
you
no legal
say
interpretation of body language, is there? No legal interpretation for body language.
for body language or mood? When lawyers get to court, for instance, at the Supreme Court today, I know that one of the things that correspondents try to describe is the mood. You know, people arriving, people slapping backs, hugging, shaking hands.
Yes.
It is always very convivial.
Yes.
But when the justices walk in,
Yes.
everything
Like
settles
gods.
down.
Yes.
In the temple of justice.
Yes.
Into a
They're in charge.
Yes.
And a lawyer cannot be seen disobeying the body language of a court. A lawyer cannot be seen being combative to the court. What for? The Constitution has asked the court to be what it is. And for a civilized society, there is need to take a mood of what the court is saying.
So
If you have an objection, there's another way to bring it up.
it's not
But not to tell the court to be combative to the court. No.
So when your lordships walk in and proceedings are about to start, can you tell us, as someone who has faced Supreme Court justices, I mean, I have watched a number of movies in the United States where not every case goes to the Supreme Court, and when it does make it to the Supreme Court, it's a big deal. The lawyers are apprehensive; they prepare and prepare and prepare, and this is something that can happen in a matter of minutes. If you're lucky, maybe an hour or two, they're done. They're done with your case. So, can you tell us what it is like in our own courts here? I haven't had the privilege. I'll call it a privilege. Privilege, because the last time I saw my colleagues there, it wasn't a pretty sight. They slept over.
That wasn't the kind of privilege I was paying for. The whole day.
That's not the kind of privilege I want, please. But I have not had the privilege of being in a Supreme Court, in our Supreme Court in Nigeria. But can you tell us what it is like, the mood? Do you think that are lawyers able to tell immediately if they have a good case, looking at what it is that they have presented before their lordships?
Yes. You are likely to, meander your mind on where it is, where the case is likely to go. But then, remember that perspective is unlimited. Perspective is unlimited. By the time the court comes up with its own decision, and then the perspective is going, probably by the council may not have accommodated those perspectives. And so, if it doesn't go his way, the way of the council, of the lawyer, it's not out of place, because it's a matter of perspective. The law is developing, the law is growing, and I think very soon, from what has been happening recently and what we are going to be discussing today, you see the movement of the thoughts, the legal thoughts in our jurisprudence, how it's moving now. What amounts to election, what amounts to petition, what should be the content of a petition, election petition, what did the court mean, what the Constitution mean by validly elected? All that, we're seeing the movement now is tilting to that tiny phrase in the Constitution, validly elected.
Validly elected.
Validly.
So the Supreme Court will be focusing largely on what it means to be validly elected. Before, I think it was substantial compliance.
A substantial compliance is a content of validly elected. Does validly elected, what is the circumstances? What is the content of validly elected? Does it limit itself on the day of election till the day of declaration? Does it contain, is it only with that? Or does it go back to what you were before you come in within the context of the day of election and the day of declaration of results? Is that so? I'm looking at the way things are going now, that all that transpired before the candidate came into the content of the day of election and the day of this thing, and not within the context of validly.
That would be interesting. Now, what we have categorized as some of the states to watch, you have Kano, given the way that is going.
Kano is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the issues coming up in Kano, you see it has very narrow content, validly. It looks like all the issue coming in Kano is about votes. 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 So, it will be interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm. What about Plateau?
Plateau, interesting. Plateau, interesting. I admire the argument of Leonard Sirk, the statesman, Kano Agabi, SN. You see, the whole thing is resolving around court order. Court order. It has not too much to do with election per se. Valid obedience of court order. Of course, I can let you know that obedience to court order, I mean, for sure, if we are going to make meaning of what the Constitution said about courts, once the court has made an order, it overturns everything.
Validly elected or not?
It overcomes everything. Because you cannot walk into the court with a clay leg. So I admired Kano Agabi's argument that, look, the tribunal said the court order was obeyed. Court of Appeal didn't see it that way. He's now persuading the court to see that the content of the court order was obeyed. So, and again, he highlighted a very important issue. When you're talking about operationalization of election party, where do you really focus? The law is that state chapters, their idiosyncrasies and actions in election matter doesn't really come in. What comes in is the action of the national executive. That's what the law recognizes. And that is why when you see, when the law said for the party to invite INEC to watch its primary or all that and all that, it didn't say the state executive. It said, you, the party, the national chairman, we write to INEC, national chairman, and the secretary. We write to INEC, not the state chapter. So we will see how those two will play out today. Mm. Yes.
It's interesting that you talk about that. I had a follow-up to that particular one, but somehow it skipped my mind now. But let me take you back, because for any case to have reached this level, it means that it's been through the tribunal and through the Court of Appeal. The tribunal, for some of the governors, they maybe won at tribunal, lost at Court of Appeal, yeah, or lost at tribunal, won at Court of Appeal, but their opponent is not satisfied and has brought them to the Supreme Court. So in some instances is that they have won, lost one, and the Supreme Court now has the final say. In other instances, it is that they have not even won anyone at all.
Yes, Kano.
Take a look at Kano. And there are those who say, look, the chances, I don't know if it's something that lawyers also take into cognizance when they want to, take a case up to the Supreme Court. Does it matter when you have lost a case at Court of First Instance, Court of Second Instance? Do they usually bring that into consideration when they're going to the Supreme Court?
Of course they do. But do not forget to remember that Section 233, subsection 2, bestowed appellant jurisdiction on election matter, on a governorship election matter, to the Supreme Court. The Constitution has a reason why it created that appellant jurisdiction on the Supreme Court. So the Constitution didn't say unless you win at tribunal and lost at the Court of Appeal, or you lost at the tribunal, or you lost at the tribunal and win at the Court of Appeal. It didn't say that. The Constitution also says things that you could have lost in the two, and the Supreme Court might, after looking into the record, of course, on a good day, if you have lost at the two courts, for you to move to Supreme Court, you have to satisfy the court that there is a cogent reason, that there is a substantial reason which these two courts failed to see and which you want the Supreme Court to see. That is in ordinary civil matters and other matters. But when it comes to election matters, that showing reason why seem not to be involved therein. Because it's an election issue, and the election matter, you need to allow the party to exhaust its opportunities to be had. So, having lost at the two courts, who does not in any way be an impediment for an appellant to move to Supreme Court and still presents his matter.
I wasn't looking at it as an impediment, but I was looking at the chances, which is usually what I think lawyers look at sometimes.
The chances are, because if you look at the issue of Kano, take for instance the argument of Mahmoud. The argument of Mahmoud, brilliant one. He said, look, those votes you are talking about, we are the regulatory body, we are the body that is meant to, and we have owned them up. We have owned them up. The 1-2-something votes we are talking about, we have owned them up. It's now our own. And then you look at the argument of Olani Beku for the governor, who said, you can't punish my client for the mistake of numbering at the regulatory body. So these are the issues that will come up.
Very interesting argument that the lawyers have canvassed. But just before, I said this is a very interesting argument that the lawyers have canvassed, and I know that lawyers will be particularly excited today with what is happening at the Supreme Court. But let me quickly take you up, because this issue of plateau is very sensitive in the sense that, a lot of legislators whose cases end at the Court of Appeal have lost their seats. And so it was seen that it is going to be a very tricky one, whichever way the Supreme Court rules. If indeed the governor is kept in office today, preserved by the judgment of the Supreme Court, some people will say, hasn't there been a miscarriage of justice for those at the level of the Court of Appeal?
I would let it along that. But then, there is this statement. No need of running when we are in the wrong direction. No need of running when we are in the wrong direction. Yes, the fate of those legislators, about I think 6 of them, there were 6. 3 escaped. 3 lost on the issue of court order. On this issue of court order. So I wouldn't know. But then, I'm not too sure that it will because those 3 lost. But then, this argument, if we're presented and if the court is persuaded by it, not do. The law is developing. The law is growing. Maybe a scapegoat. Sometimes some of these accidents occur.
Could there be a remedy of a review? Whichever way the case goes.
The Constitution didn't
give that room.
A way for it. Because the 60 days, the Constitution said everything about House of Assembly, everything about National Assembly ends in Court of Appeal. And then it must be done within 80 days, within 60 days. That 60 days has come and gone. And it is already elapsed.
Well, Mr. I'm a little interested in, first of all, the part of the conversation that Marwa just had with you. But I'd like to backtrack to something you started with earlier, that you and Chamberlain started with, which is the body language of the court. Now, it tends in the direction of saying there are certain sentiments that lawyers must pay attention to, and that there are certain movements or language or body language of the court. In the example that you also cited of yourself, there are certain words, what the court wants. And then all of it comes back to one thing to me, perception of the people. At the end of the day, it is how people perceive the decisions of the Supreme Court that they go with, that they will tell everybody. So help us understand how those sentiments of the court, how that body language of the court, how the position of the court, lines up with people's perception, especially when, as you said, it's not about sentiments, it's about law, but then you also say it's about the body language of the court. So help Nigerians understand all of that in the mix, because they can't stay 16 hours in the court like Chamberlain.
Thank you very much. That's very wonderful. You see, you remember when the CJN was swearing in the Federal High Court, the last swearing in of Federal High Court? Do you remember what the Supreme Court said? Be guided by the Constitution, not social media. Be guided by the Constitution, not social media. You see, yes, the expectation of the public and what eventually the judgment is. What I think we need to do is that there's a need to always bring the judgment of the court. Of course, the court is always guided by the law, by the Constitution, and by the case law. The interpretation of the Constitution is not within the purview of the general public. Everybody is busy looking for the money to pay the boss, to pay the hospital bill and all that, and so does not have all the time to look at the Constitution and see what it provided. The general public are so busy that they do not know what the law is saying. They depend on the lawyers and the court to expand the law and let them know what the law is saying. So I think the Supreme Court or the courts are guided by these elements I have highlighted. When they look at it and bring them into purview, then it becomes what the guideline of the public will be. So the body language, as you asked, actually does not come into the issue of interpretation of the law. What I was talking about, the body language, is like when the court is, take for instance, the body language. I take you to what happened in the United States of America a few days ago. When Trump brought an argument to the court and said, look, I was in an office when this and this happened, and so I cannot be criminalized. I cannot be prosecuted. I cannot do this. The court now asked, are you saying, one of the justices said, are you saying when a president kills an opponent while in office, we should let him go because he was in an office? That is an element of body language. And I remember one case we did in Supreme Court where issue was, is this candidate, the candidate that was in question, was he up to 35 years as at the time he contested the election? I remember what one of the justices of the Supreme Court asked the lawyer. Are you saying that if Trump comes into Nigeria, and contest presidency, and because the INEC will now allow him to go on because he is 35 years, does he meet the requirement of being a Nigerian? That passed a body language. It passed a body language. And I remember one of the cases that was heard recently, I think that was that of Abia, where the Supreme Court, one of the justices asked the lead counsel of APC and said, are you saying, look, I remember what Jesus Christ said. This is what God said. This is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased. That up till now, nobody has contested that statement. This is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased. So, why are you talking about a sponsorship by another political party which you don't belong to? Why? Why are you meddling into that? Are you not supposed to, by provision of Section 29(5), are you not supposed to be limited to your party? By provision of Section 84(14), are you not supposed to, is it not pre-election matter? Why are you bringing it up here? So, these are body language.
Well, Mr. Machukume, yeah, the issue here, one of the things that bothers me, and I think it's something a number of people will also be looking at, is how the people react to the final decision of the court, particularly the Supreme Court. You remember, I'm sure, because even now you said that the Kano case is very, very interesting. You remember what happened when that pronouncement was made at the lower court, and how the decision of the court, generated an instant reaction from the people. Now we are talking about 6 states or thereabout, and the decisions are going to go one way or the other, as we began in our opening comments when Jimlin said that. Now, it is also always a problem of perception, because if people think that the case ought to have gone in a particular direction, but it went in an opposite direction, and there is a spontaneous reaction of the people to that judgment, the lawyers would not come out in most cases to say, well, the court was right or the court was not right. I'm saying that against the premise of the fact that there have been situations where the Supreme Court, any court at that, makes a decision, and even the lawyers who were in the courts, they were saying that they didn't agree with the decision of the courts. So that, in a way, sends signals to the people. So how do people deal with that?
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. Of course, I'm not too sure it's expected. Human beings are also made up with their emotions. Human beings, including the lawyer. The lawyer is a human being. But I think why that disagreement is within the context of freedom of expression. It's within the context of freedom of expression. And you remember the element of provocation. Once something happens, a certain temperament of the body forces us to react one way or another. Yes, all this must be accommodated within the streamline of the democracy. But what I think, the lawyer has a higher duty than just to speak. The lawyer has a way to start taking steps to ensure that if some of these judgments are not within what he perceives to be the law, we need to reframe the look at our electoral act. Each segment, each year is growing upper and upper and upper, despite some setbacks, because there are some pronounced setbacks. When the National Assembly has enacted certain law, some judgments of the Supreme Court has a little bit pushed those provisions into backwards. Yes, but then this is part of the issue of growing up in the democracy. I'm sure the next amendment that the Electoral Act will be done if we are sincere to ourselves. We accommodate some of these shortcomings and retune them in such a way that, we continue to grow in a refined manner. Yes, that's what I think will be our fate.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Machuku, I'm hoping that Nigerians, particularly young people, are listening to you right now, because at the end of the day, we're hoping, just as you said, there's some growth so far in our electioneering processes. I'm hoping that we'll be able to take some learnings from this. Now, one of the issues that I have raised over time when we talk about court cases, court judgments, is how much of the process helps to educate people, particularly about the processes and procedures of the court and the things that usually determine the decisions of the court. How much of the decisions that are going to be made today do you foresee offering Nigerians some education about the legal processes and procedures? How much we can enforce legal education or electoral education for people through the decisions that are going to be made today? How much of that do you see, particularly for the general public, but more importantly, for the politicians?
Yes, there is really need. It is very important. The issue raised is very vital. There is need to internalize some of these decisions. There is need to explain away these decisions. There is need for a lot of seminars, workshops, and the conferences that we bring the public into contest, that we bring the National Assembly members into play, so that we see the reasoning and then the explanation and the way out. I think some of our televisions have been doing a wonderful work by bringing into play a lot of NGOs who, one way or the other, pass messages of what the election is all about. I think if we can also start bringing a lot of people to such bodies and lawyers after the judgment to explain what the Supreme Court had in mind, to explain, put it into such a language that everybody will understand. It will help a long way. So, and that takes me a little bit back to what you were saying about the reactions during the Kano judgments. You see, we're still a growing democracy. Impulses sometimes move into whims and caprices. Whims and caprices is a vice on those that occupy offices. Impulses are also that which the public has, and which is not always the best. There is a need for us to start refining ourselves, to start looking for solutions in a refined way within the context of rule of law, to start breaking here, doing that, doing this. I'm not too sure that is the best.
Okay.
I may have to point out to you, yes, it may not be the best. So there's need for us to start, both the people in government, the people that are mold opinion, and the people that are molding opinion. And that is why we keep on talking about education.
Okay. Well, Mr. Machuku, it's actually very interesting.
Politicians exploit the uneducated masses into impulses. And that is not the best.
Well, especially if we have to achieve the growth that we desire. Well, there's information just reaching us. You can see it on your screen already. The Supreme Court has affirmed the election of Babajide Sanwo-Olu as the validly elected governor of Lagos State, and the appeal of Gbadebo Road's rival of the Labour Party has been dismissed for lacking in merit. That much we have already brought to you so far. One last one from me, Mr. Machuku Ume. So, what are the lessons that you would say that the political class should begin and sustain imbibing if we are to grow our democracy as we ought? The example that Chamberlain cited of the candidate in Adamawa State, Mr. Ado, who said that we were the first to inform him that his case had been withdrawn. Along the line, he also mentioned to us that he had spent a lot on this particular case, and for it to go the way it went, it was actually very, very painful to him. What are the lessons that you think that the political class should be able to draw from the cases that are being cited today, particularly in the rhetorics that ought to be coming from them? The Supreme Court has affirmed the victory of Governor Sanwo-Olu in Lagos, but we know that the reactions are going to come from those who did not win, Labour Party, PDP, and the rest of them. What are the rhetorics that should be coming from politicians so as to make our democracy more formidable and our political education of the people more progressive for Nigeria?
Yes. The answer is simple. We've lost today. Tomorrow is another day. We've lost today. One of the characters of a gallant, a fine competitor is to learn from mistakes of today and that of yesterday. What were the issues involved in the election? Were we going the wrong side of the law? Were we pumping into the courts matters that should have been pumped before election was held? Did we have, if it's an issue of election and votes, do we have all the structures that were required in order to enable us to have won the election? The blame game, yes, it can come the first day. The blame game can come the first day. But I guess after that, sleep over the night, 2 days, you start taking a reflection to restructure yourself on what to do. Election is not really about the contestant. Election is about the global society. Yes, a lot was spent, but that's not the core issue. The core issue is how was the society carried along in order to elevate the society to a level where the next election, some of these few rough sides we must have weathered away. And then what will be presented to the court during election petition will be what the Constitution required as was the person validly elected. Was the person validly elected? What is the content of validly elected? So the contestant today who lost need to, from beginning for 2027, start thinking, if I'm going back to the field, do I know what is the content of validly elected? He should from now start seeking opinion of the lawyers to direct him on what is validly elected, so that he will not be bringing issues that have to have been canvassed as a pre-election under Section 33 in the Federal High Court, and then you leave it there and load it into the tribunal.
Put differently, running when he's in the wrong direction.
Direction. This is very critical.
Oh, dear.
We cannot, because we have a lot of money pumped in, and then the issue that should have been conversed under the Federal High Court, pre-election, we leave it and bundle them.
So, Mr.
Into the courts.
talk to us about Lagos. I mean,
Yes.
in the petition there, they were trying to find, I mean, the PDP and Labour Party were arguing that there were irregularities, they did not comply with the provisions of the Electoral Act, and that the deputy governor was not qualified to vie in that election. That was what they were seeking. But here we've seen now that the court has affirmed the election.
You see, I've said this to a little bit earlier. If you look at the section 285, 2, that said tribunal, what the tribunal is concerned about, election tribunal is concerned about is validly elected. Is qualification
The context of valid election.
within the context of validly elected. Is it?
More information coming in now from our correspondent who is in the court and who has broken this. She says that the full decision of the court is still being read, is still being delivered, but the declaration has been made that the Lagos State Governor Sanwo-Olu's election has been affirmed by the Supreme Court of Nigeria. She says it's a unanimous decision by all the justices present in the court. So for you, looking at what it is that they have presented, what the opponents, what the Labour Party candidate, Gbadebo Rhodes Vival, had presented before the court of law, contesting the citizenship or contesting the qualification of the deputy governor, Obafemi Hamzat, to be a part of that particular ticket, and also the fact that they're talking about non-compliance with the Electoral Act. What do you think that the Supreme Court has seen here that has, made them dismiss the appeal of the Labour Party candidate?
Yes. The issue of the deputy governor. The issue of the qualification of the governor, whether he has WAEC or not. The question now is, maybe the Supreme Court was looking at, I have not seen the judgment. So, maybe the Supreme Court is looking at, and if you see the preponderance of judgment that have been delivered of recent and all this while, it looks like, be it constitutional provision, be it Electoral Act, qualifications seem to be moving to pre-election matter. Qualification seem to be moving to pre-election matter.
It wasn't like that before.
There happened a judgment where the Supreme Court said, it belongs to either way. Either way. But then the process is growing. I'm seeing that many, if you look at the provision of the Electoral Act, you see, before, in 2010, the Electoral Act said, if you are, it was all commerce. Any person can come in and challenge the qualification of a person, of a candidate. That has been watered down.
If you do that, you're a meddlesome interloper.
Yes, you must have come within the context of Section 29(5). You must be a member of that party. You must also come either within the context of Section 84(14), which a little bit expanded it. But then, for you to do that, you must go to Federal High Court. I'm sure. If you look at the provision of the Constitution, the Supreme Court is sitting on appeal from election tribunal that went to the Court of Appeal that came to it. So, was election tribunal qualified to deal with the issue of qualification? Is it within the context of validly elected?
Very big question.
And because, again, of course, the three things mentioned is governor, deputy governor, and the substantial compliance. I'm thinking that for you to go to election tribunal these days, it looks some of the few things you have to do core issue we have to do has to do with was election within the compliance of the substantial compliance. I appreciate that the grounds of petition as stipulated in the Electoral Act includes qualification, whether the person forged or whether the person is qualified.
Okay, just to add that we understand that it's not over yet, that the court is still going to be delivering judgment, because that was given in the case of the APC and the Labour Party. We understand up next is that of the PDP and its governorship candidate Abdulaziz Adediran against Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos. And we understand that Justice Adamu Jauro is reading the judgment. So that judgment is ready. That of Lagos, beg your pardon, of the governor of Lagos and the APC versus Labour Party and its candidates as well has just been delivered.
Lagos State and APC?
No. The Lagos State governor, that's the Lagos State governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and the APC.
Yes.
Versus the Labour Party candidate is what has been delivered.
No, the other way around.
Okay.
Because
Labour
I think
Party.
the person that appeared
yes.
is Labour Party.
Labour Party.
And
okay.
this candidate, viable.
Okay.
That's the person that
the order
actually,
is very important.
Yes, that's the person that appeared.
Okay.
Because I guess the current governor won at the tribunal and also at the Court of Appeal. So the person to now
raise the appeal
is Gbadebo Road.
Gbadebo, yeah.
Gbadebo,
Road Survival. Yeah, well, the point I was just trying to make is that there are two separate cases against the Lagos State governor.
Yes.
So that of the Labour Party has been delivered. We're waiting for that of the PDP candidate, Babajide, beg your pardon, Abdulaziz Adediran, yes, his name is also Babajide as well, against Sanwo-Olu, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State. So we understand that judgment is currently being read by Justice Adamu Jauro. Do you think that he'll scale one and maybe be tripped by the other? Is it a possibility?
I guess I didn't have the full facts now. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's the same panel that looked into the two. In a good day, two different panels for an election that happened on the same day. Two different panels may not likely hear it because different judgments may pass on. But it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same matter they're looking at.
Yeah, it's not the same issue they're looking at.
But it's the same election.
It's the same election, but then it's not the same facts were presented.
The same prayers.
Because you see, when you look at what Labour said, Labour Party, in the issue of the presidential election, when the judgment was given, you know what happened is the one of Atiku was read. And when it came to that of Labour, the court said, the issues are the same, and that, and what we said in PDP, Atiku and PDP, is the same thing. You saw the reaction of Labour. Labour fired back and highlighted a lot of brilliant points. Look, we're not the same. Our P number are not the same. And the issues presented are not the same. So, how would you cluster us together? We're not on the same base. We're not best of the same feather.
So we cannot flock together.
We cannot fly together.
All right.
So,
okay.
So that may we there's need to listen very well to the issue coming up in that of PDP, Jide Jado. There's need.
All right.
Yes.
So those are issues that we're keeping tabs on and more because we have a team right there at the Supreme Court and we will be bringing you all those details as we get them. But we have to thank you for coming on, Mr. Chukwuma Machukwume, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice for Imo State. Thank you for your time here today.
Very grateful.
All right.
Very grateful.
We're back in just a moment. Stay on with us.
Have you heard that you can now print glossy, high-quality, 7 pages, 8-2 size wall calendars for just 120,000 naira only, and A3 size for just 60,000 naira only, and it will be produced and delivered to anywhere of your choice in Nigeria within 96 hours, without even having to leave your room. Listen, this is how it works. Just open WhatsApp, send your pictures and other content, and you will receive your custom design online for your approval within 24 hours. What are you waiting for? Call our hotline for more details on 0913 156 5016. 0812-794-9323 or 0815-508-8279 or visit our social media pages. Cas Prints, digital printing at super speed.
Discover Lipton's flavorful and balanced taste. We pick fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world to give you Lipton Yellow Label's flavorful and balanced taste in every sip.
The journey to success is not always smooth. There are rough patches on the path to accomplishment. The struggle continues until solution appears that launches you to the world of your dreams, protecting, securing, and ensuring that you reach your goals. At International Energy Insurance, we know that the journey to actualizing your dreams could be tough, but we are always there to support you and help you prepare for the unexpected. International Energy Insurance is a Nuremberger company now positioned to serve you better. International Energy Insurance PLC. Energy to care.
Have you heard that you can now print glossy, high-quality, 7 pages, 8-2 size wall calendars for just 120,000 naira only, and A3 size for just 60,000 naira only, and it will be produced and delivered to anywhere of your choice in Nigeria within 96 hours, without even having to leave your room. Listen, this is how it works. Just open WhatsApp, send your pictures and other content, and you will receive your custom design online for your approval within 24 hours. What are you waiting for? Call our hotline for more details on 0913 156 5016. 0812-794-9323 or 0815-508-8279 or visit our social media pages. Cas Prints, digital printing at super speed.
We have enjoyed a lot of good working relationship with the members of the public. Each time they see something strange, they normally report to us, and we act accordingly. And that is the pitch that keeps us to this level. So today, we are assuring members of the public that nothing will change tomorrow. We have the strength to handle any situation arising from people who want to take the security of the state at stake. Our priority is to ensure that the safety of individuals are guaranteed. We have consulted with the government. In various fora, His Excellency has made several statements that no cause of Allah, people should abide by the outcome of the decision of the court. And those opposition too have also made their mind that as a party, they will not support anybody taking law into his hands or breaking the existing laws or going into rampage or any kind of destruction. So I think what the situation we are likely to handle tomorrow is just to deal with individual miscreant hoodlums who want to take advantage and loot. And we are not going to take it easy with such a person.
Well, yes, we'll be talking about developments in the Niger Delta, but we're keeping our eyes on what is going on at the Supreme Court. In the meantime, we do have Dr. Alaye Theophilus here with us. He's the president of Ijaw Youth Council Worldwide. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
But yes, indeed, we're keeping our tabs in the courts, understandably, because, I mean, lots of people expect to see how will the pendulum swing. Already, we've seen some parts of those decisions coming through about that of Lagos. So we'll be going over soon. Let's go ahead now. We do have our man, Seun Akimbaloye, our political editor, is there. So we'll be bringing you, he'll be giving us some updates on what is going on in just a moment, just trying to ensure that all of those details are out there. But, well, you're also, Bielsa, I think they can breathe easy now in terms of how some of these things are going. They shouldn't, do they have any cause of concern for the elections?
You know, electoral processes, till the court issues are over, that is when you say that elections have come to an end. The exercise has been carried out. We have a winner yet now, but we can't really dictate for the court. But the people have made their choice, which is the outcome that we also, that the incumbent governor, at the end of the day, emerged as the winner.
But do these kind of things affect anything, especially if the minister of the Niger Delta is there, he's got a job to do, whether or not the state governors are shaky? Does it affect development in the region?
Yeah, to an extent, yes. Because when we talk about instability, you know, the money that ought to be used for development normally go the other way around in terms of we have to. The Nigerian factor always comes in, so definitely affects development to a larger extent. And between the state and the center, there is disconnect. So we definitely have some impact.
Okay, so we'll be crossing over now to our correspondent, Seun Akimbaloye, the political editor, to just bring us an update on what is going to happen. Okay, we'll bring that to you when he said. So just to ensure that things go well. But in terms of what the people of the Niger Delta expect from, say, the minister of the Niger Delta, do they focus attention on him? Because the state governors are also there to do a job. So how do they balance all of that?
Fine, because the Niger Delta ministry is an interventionist kind of ministry, not like the other ministry that have to do with the entire Nigerian system. It's a regional ministry that is created basically to intervene and cushion up the infrastructural deficiency in the Niger Delta. So basically, yes, a lot is expected from the Niger Delta Ministry and other interventionist agencies that has to do with the development of the Niger Delta. Like what we are experiencing now, the budget allocation for the Niger Delta Ministry is really, really poor. One of the poorest allocation was given to the Niger Delta Ministry, at least about 20 billion naira, which we know very well it can't go anywhere in terms of interfacing or intervening on the developmental deficiencies in the region. And that is why under this President Tinubu renewed hope agenda administration, we are believing that some of those things are definitely going to be looked into while we wait for the rapid development of the Niger Delta region as a people.
So what do you or what does the council expect from the ministry in terms of practical development?
From the ministry, with what is on ground, based on the budget allocation that was given to the Niger Delta, little is expected. We have to be sincere to ourselves.
So are you expecting them to do what? Increase the allocation?
Yes, the Niger Delta Ministry allocation needs to be increased. Upward review needs to be given to the Niger Delta Ministry allocation because it's an interventionist ministry.
So has this been juxtaposed with the needs in the ministry and then the figures fell short of those highlighted needs?
Yes, yes. Because, you know, before the allocation of a portfolio to the ministers that were nominated, the Niger Delta Ministry was omitted. That was the incumbent administration really wanted to scrap the ministry, but out of agitations and interfacing with the presidency, it was restored. And when the budgetary allocation was made, a lot of things were cut off. So we are interfacing with the presidency and Mr. President.
Okay. All right. We can now go to political editor Seun Okinbaloye, who is right there at the court. He's just had to step out just to come through and give us that update this morning. Good morning, Seun. So can you bring us up to speed? What's going on at the moment?
Thank you so much, Chamberlain. Indeed, the sun is rising. And, of course, a lot of expectations from the Supreme Court here. It's a big day, if you want to call it the Supreme Court big day, for so many of the states that will be expecting the judgments from the court today. We have quite a number of them. From Lagos has just been pronounced by the Supreme Court. And the breaking news that we have is that the appeal of the Labour Party candidate, Gbadebo Rose Viver, has been struck out by the Supreme Court. And the court has ruled that the appeal of the Labour Party candidate in Lagos lacked merit. He was challenging the candidacy of the Deputy Governor, Obafemi Hamzat, about whether or not he can contest for the deputy, can be the running mate of Babajide Sanwo-Olu in that election because of his status and his passport, the citizenship of the United States or other country. And so the court struck out, citing different case laws and different positions of the Constitution. And of course, the election of the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has been affirmed by the Supreme Court. It looks like a unanimous decision of the Supreme Court. There is a long list of the decision of the court, and Bauchi State case is up next, and the appearances have now been announced in the court from the parties involved. Of course, we are hoping also to hear pronouncement from the Supreme Court in cases involving Plateau governorship contest, Cross River State, Abia State, Zamfara State, Kano, Bauchi. Of course, Bauchi is up next. Of course, you know that in Kano, Plateau State, these are states that are highly contentious. There's a lot of permutation. In Kano, for example, the incumbent governor has lost at the tribunal, has lost also at the appeal court. But hopefully, whatever the position of the Supreme Court is today, it's going to be very significant. Don't forget, whether or not the governor, he can contest the election in Plateau State, there are also a lot of issues regarding the Congress and the position of the party, whether or not they obeyed the High Court ruling ahead of the Congress in the state. These are some of the issues. But how will the Supreme Court rule in this matter, considering the presidential election, considering some of the past cases of our election in Nigeria, the position of INEC guideline, the electoral law, all of these things will be brought to bear, especially the Constitution, which is the ground norm, the mother of all laws in Nigeria. These are all of the indices that the Supreme Court justices will be considering today. It's been 8 of them that sat there today because they're going to be sitting different of the justices are sitting in different panels for some of these states. But this is how it's been. Of course, on the inside, we've seen the governor of Bauchi State, the governor of Zamfara State, the governor of Plateau State, of the APC candidate in Plateau State. We've seen him also present in the courtroom. He is a sober and a reflective mood in the courtroom because that is what you usually see in the Supreme Court. You've got to be courteous. You have to be very well-behaved in front of the justices of the Supreme Court when they are delivering their judgment. That has been it so far. Some of the updates coming from the Supreme Court. It's going to be a long day considering about 8 to 9 cases. Wow. Don't forget, the justices, the lead judge today was saying that one thing that is very important is that because of the long cases and the long list of the cases that are going to be determined today, the bench should abridge their judgment, but the larger portion of or the real judgment will be passed on to the parties involved later so that this can be dealt with. Also, we understand that conferences on some of the governorship cases also will be held today, and other cases that are not, in fact, election cases will also be entertained by the Supreme Court. So it's a very long day for the bench and the bar today at the Supreme Court, Nigeria's apex court.
You know, Sean, the last time, nobody warned me, so I went there bullish when it was time for the presidential election. But I still managed to come out bullish all the same, not bearish. But, you know, thinking about how it was going to go today, so many were wondering what will happen. Would it be that long? And how will they go? Because, yes, they will affirm some. And if they go ahead for cases like Kano, for instance, and Plateau, so the permutation is, so what? If they go ahead and affirm, would they now explain? But you've spoken about how they're going to abridge the judgment. So what's the thinking? Is that what, will people be right to expect that that is the way it might go?
Well, today, Chamberlain, one thing I can assure you is that if there are 8 or 9 cases before the Supreme Court today to be determined, it's taking almost an hour to determine the case in Lagos. Don't forget that some of the justices are still, or our courts in Nigeria, they still make their records in longhand. It means that even in the appearances will take about 10 to 15 minutes. The lead lawyers in the parties would stand up and make their appearances and introduce their colleagues. And the defendant in the case also will stand up and do the same. The appearances will take about 10 to 15 minutes. The lead judge, the justice, will deliver the judgment. And if there are dissenting judgments, that will be taken. It takes an average of 20 to 30 minutes in the Lagos case for the lead judge to deliver the judgment, and all the other justices in that matter and that panel just affirmed in their own ways. So it could be different in some cases, especially in cases like Plateau Kano that are contentious, and there possibly could be dissenting positions of the justices of the Supreme Court on this matter. But okay, so if there are 8 cases, for example, Chamberlain, and let's assume 1 hour for each case, that is a whooping 8 hours in the minimum. So if anybody had come here bullish, you have to calm down, because it's going to be a long day. And if on the cost list by the Supreme Court today, this is what they said they will entertain, definitely they'll try to. Because also, one thing that is important is that time is of the essence. Because the window as prescribed by law is also very critical. This is a legal matter, and the courts are also very cautious of this kind of situation. Don't forget, if there is any upset, is any governor that is being removed today, is probably going to change the scenario of our governorship election, the calendar of our governorship election in Nigeria, because if any governor is removed, if there is any upset happens today in the court, it means that the person that has been pronounced today will start his own term afresh. It's just after 6 months when one person has been in office. So this is a possible scenario, give and take, Chamberlain.
Very well said indeed. Brilliant, Sean. So thank you very much indeed. So we'll keep tabs with you both on the news hour to get more updates as it develops, because from the look of things, it's just barely starting. So thank you, Sean, and well done for your reporting. Okay, so coming back here, so I know, even though I said I ended up bullish, some said I came out bearish, but there was no VAR to determine which way it went, so I could claim whatever. Exactly. So back to this now, when we get back to the region, so you did say these things have a way of affecting developments. If it's not certain, if they don't know where the pendulum will swing, then they will do certain things. But who knows?
I wanted to bring it to, well, it's still, of course, it's within the Niger Delta. The NYC is also quite vocal when it comes to politics within the Niger Delta region. And I'm talking about states. I think my colleague asked you earlier about Bayelsa. the fact that they can breathe easy. But what is happening in Rivers has been quite interesting to watch. We understand the governor of Rivers State was with the president yesterday. There were no photo ops after that, as we've seen in certain instances. But the controversy between himself and the current minister of the FCT is not something that has been hidden. And we know that, there's been quite some responses from groups within Rivers State. Has the IYC made itself clear on where it stands on that particular matter?
Yes. For time without number, we have come up openly to tell the world that the political crisis that are about to engulf Rivers State, we are not really comfortable with. And we called Mr. President and every other critical stakeholder in Rivers State to intervene. Well, Mr. President have come in as a person, that the resolution that was made, we aren't really comfortable with some of us because some of the directives that were given to the governor to implement were constitutional issues that are not within the confine of the governor to make. Be that as it may, Rivers State is a very sensitive state to the development and stability of the Niger Delta. So anytime there is political crisis in Rivers State, there is this high tendency of that crisis escalating to other states, especially when we are coming from the perspective of, okay, the governor is being a Niger governor and his predecessor is from the other ethnic ground, and what we are trying to see is kind of oppression to the incumbent governor. It might really trigger ethnic-related crisis. And we don't want issues of that nature because we really want a peaceful Niger Delta that will be business-friendly so that IOCs and the local investors can come in and create the platform for job creation that the youth of the Niger Delta can benefit. Political crisis and instability have never been positive to the youth of the Niger Delta.
So when you look at steps that have been taken so far, I mean, I know that one of the prominent Nigerian and Ijaw leaders, Chief Edwin Clark, has also spoken on this particular matter, raising the issue of the Constitution. But so far, so good. We've seen that lawmakers have continued their sitting. They've been, I think they now have a place where they're sitting. And we heard the other day the Speaker saying that, what did he even say now? That the budget is yet to be submitted to the State House of Assembly. We've seen, will I say before now, someone who claimed he was Speaker, the factional Speaker, resigning his appointment and I think becoming the Chief of Staff to the Governor. So haven't we seen steps towards the resolution of this imbroglio, as it were? And is this a situation of people on the outside crying louder than those who are bereaved?
No, not actually people on the outside crying louder than the bereaved. What is there is, fine, he's the governor of the state. What he wants as a governor is peace so that he can implement the developmental agenda that he has for his people. So if there is any sacrifice from his own perspective, his angle that he believes that he can do, definitely he will do it. And that is why you see that he was able to convince Edison, the speaker in his own side, to resign. If that will bring peace and stability in Rivers State. The governor is a peace-loving person. He has always told the path of peace. And he respects constituted authority and elders. So if that is coming from the side of the president, okay, so be it. But on the other issue of legality of the other 25 lawmakers is not within the confine of the governor. So define that. That is a constitutional issue.
All right.
And it's already before a competent court to decide. Even the party that gave them the mandate has already written to INEC.
Okay. All right. We have to thank you for coming on, Dr. Alayi Theophilus, President, Ijaw Youth Council Worldwide. Thank you. And we hope that everything goes well in the region.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that is the show today, but we have to thank you all. Dixon, Taufik Odetunde, Honorable Ademola Alalade, Prof. Mohena, Festus Akimboyewa, Chanel Kingsley. We thank you all for your messages. We have seen them. We do appreciate them, and we hope you all keep them coming through. So that is the show today as well, but don't forget to keep it locked here at Channels because we'll bring you all the details as they come through from the Supreme Court about the big day for many governors today. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Goodbye.
Thank you. I'm Mao Ogun Yusuf. Have a great weekend.
And I'm Ayo Makide. Do have a lovely one.
Thank you for staying with us and welcome to News Track on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka, and these are the stories we're following for you this hour. The Supreme Court has affirmed the election of Babajide Sanwo-Olu of the All Progressives Congress as governor of Lagos State. The five-member panel, in a unanimous judgment delivered by Justices Lawal Garba and Adamu Jauru, affirmed the declaration of the APC's candidate as winner of the March 18, 2023 governorship election after dismissing two separate appeals challenging his victory. Gbadebo Rhodes Viver of the Labour Party, who came second, and Abdulaziz Adediran, popularly known as Jandor of the People's Democratic Party, who came third, had challenged the election of Sanwo-Olu on the grounds of alleged irregularities, malpractices, non-compliance, as well as non-qualification. They had specifically argued that the deputy governor, who acquired citizenship of the United States of America, is not qualified to contest elective position, and as such,